on the agenda today, we'll kind of walk through Waypoint and see some of the new fun features that we have in 0.2. And then we're going to go ahead and try to get a Minecraft server started up. So if you have Minecraft Java Edition at home, you can, at the end of the stream, probably near the end of the stream, join in and hang out with us and check out our server and help build some things before we shut it down with the Terraform destroy. So yeah, lots of fun planned. Have there been any things that you've been working on this week, Jackie, or anything that you're excited about that is coming up?
Yeah, I mean, there was the Waypoint and Nomad community office hours that we did with the Ignite editions earlier this week. Behind the scenes, I've been doing some work with Jono and a little bit with Rosemary for some other exciting stuff coming up that we're like not going to talk too much about yet, but looking forward to that. And then I guess next week we've got a pretty busy week, so kind of this is a nice way to wrap up before we do like an employee only kind of event thing that we'll all be at next week, and it'll be nice to do. I'm just currently wrestling, Twitch logins because
It's fun. I personally, I've loved being able to stream and talk with everyone. But for those of you that have not engaged with that just yet, finding the right, whether it be your streaming key or the right URL to stream to, can be quite a bit harrowing. To anyone out there who's like really mastered OBS and some of those other platforms, my hat off to you. Literally, my hat off to you. I'm not wearing one right now. I do think I do have one shout out to make as well for next week. Next week, our fellow DAs, developer advocates, Rosemary and Eric, are going to be having coffee and code very early on Monday morning, 7 a.m. Eastern. So that's going to be like 4 a.m. Pacific. Maybe I'll grab some coffee and have to check that out too. They'll be live on this Twitch stream. They're going to try to add one of Rosemary's .NET applications on Windows to Eric's console service mesh. Rosemary can't agree that she'll be fully awake to code, but she's going to try. So honestly, it's going to be a fun one to watch if you want to catch that live or catch the replay. All right. So yeah, so if you have any questions, if there's anything that you'd like to see, this is HashiCorp Live. This is our time, but it's your time too, right? If you have any questions out there in the community space, if there's anything that you're hitting while using any of our tools that you want to get more insight or answers to, that's what we're here for. And we're always happy to help. So feel free to raise up questions at any point in time. Otherwise, I think I might just switch over here to getting AKS stood up, and then we can kind of start on our journey. Awesome. And for those of you that can hear the leaf blowers outside of my house, I do apologize for that. They picked a fantastic time to make that happen. All right. So what are we going to be doing today? So let me bring in my Terraform code and let me make this a little bit larger so you can actually read what's going on here. So for those of you that know me, know that I really enjoy Kubernetes. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it makes workloads really easy to use. So I'm actually going to share out this repository here after I've walked through a little bit of the code and have kicked off our Terraform plans and applies. What are we building today? What we're going to be building today is so we're going to be working on Microsoft's Azure Cloud, and we're going to be, so this is our provider. Note that in this repository, you're going to be able to reference all of these different providers and resources. And again, feel free to ask us any questions and happy to kind of dig into any one of these things as you see fit and kind of shed more light on them. Here we can start off our Terraform block of code with the Azure provider, and we don't have to define anything in here. And the reason that is because, let me pull up the correct tab. I'm using Terraform Cloud. And inside of Terraform Cloud, I can actually go ahead and set the credentials that I need to log into Azure. So instead of having to pass those around the entire team or exchange them in plain text or any other way, I can set all of those variables within Terraform Cloud, and I can actually invite people to this workspace if they want to run this Terraform code with me. So I'll go ahead and get rid of that for the time being. So that's why that is. Actually, if I jump in here to Terraform, you can even see that backend, that remote backend is specified here. And then I'm using this Minecraft Kates or Kubernetes shorthand as my workspace. We can see that these are all of the providers that we're going to be using today. Special shout outs to Kubernetes and the Azure RM providers. We do have some randomness in here as well, as provided by some of the modules. And then we're going to be using Terraform 0.14.7, which is the latest generally available version of Terraform today. So we already walked through the Azure provider. Next, let's go into the network itself. So inside this network here, I'm just creating a single subnet. I've got a /16 address space just because give it room to grow, right? This is a demo. Nice to be able to have the network space to operate within. And then we're actually using Azure's network module here. If you're not familiar with modules in Terraform, one of the best places to start is going to be the Terraform Registry. So in here, not only can we take a look at Azure RM and kind of like what, start to understand what are the various things that we can use within this provider. We can click documentation and even this use provider, and it'll tell you how to get started with, putting this into your Terraform configuration. But say we want to start looking at Kubernetes, and if we wanted to use the resource directly, we could do that here. Or if we want to see maybe there's a module available to us, which there is, we can start to type that in here. And there it is. I just referenced the network module. So if we type in Azure and network, we'll see this Azure network module here. And then this is a great place to see, looks like build's failing. So someone might have to take a look at that. But also a great shout out for pinning your providers. So making sure that you've actually explicitly declared a certain version, and thus making sure that you can repeatably stand up your code. It's very important for when things like this happen. We can see that there are a couple inputs, and basically resource group name is the required input that we'd have to use here. But know that this is a great resource that you have available to you if you want to look things up. Or say if I wanted to take a look at, if there's anything for Vault, I can type that in, and then fuzzy search will bring back all of these values to me, so I can go and introspect what is going on with each of these. So quite a useful tool.
So I'm just figuring out closed captioning in the background there. We should be able to toggle it and turn it on. Is there any chance you can do that? Or promote me to host and I can do it while you're going through the code. Sorry to interrupt.
Absolutely, no problem. Let's see, closed caption, and actually I will, let me just make you co-host.
Perfect.
Awesome. And you have been co-hosted. If you need anything else, just let me know. I can switch it to host.
All Sounds good. I'll see if I can find it.
Yay. Deploys on Fridays, debugging in real time. It's I think that's Jacquie and I's favorite thing to do.
Oh, it's live, all right.
Like we just get to use our SRE backgrounds, which is a lot of fun. Use that for being awake at 3 a.m. Quite often. It's a lot of fun. All right. So we're setting up our network. I went through that. When it comes to Azure, one of the things that is different than the other clouds is this concept of resource groups. And what a resource group is really just a way to identify a related set of infrastructure, which is quite nice. We can kind of like file it underneath a certain name and in a region, and then that will keep track, kind of like a binder for our infrastructure. So if we want to go link or look anything up, we can actually check that out. That becomes a little bit more useful when you're looking at it through the Azure portal user interface. And when you want to look up certain infrastructure, you could also look that up via the command line as well. Awesome. Moving on to the AKS portion of our code today. There is quite a bit that we're declaring here in this module. So this module does let you do a lot of things, namely set your Kubernetes version. We do also have to set the orchestrator version as well, or it's best to, because whenever we know something and we want to declaratively put that into our code, that's always the best thing to do. Here we're going to be specifying Kubernetes 120 and then a minor version so that we can make sure that these are in line. When it comes to Kubernetes version versus the orchestrator version, that's the control plane, which is the API of Kubernetes, as well as the worker nodes. We want those to be on the same page when it comes to that API version, overall version, and so forth. When it comes to the agents, this is something fun that we're going to try just based on some tests that I was doing with the Minecraft server. Looks like it wasn't spinning up fast enough. We'll get into that a little bit later, but wanted to be able to put that in so we can try different types of compute and see if that might help us. Otherwise, we can, so that is the type of compute that we'll be dealing with. When it comes to agents, we can set minimum count, max count, and desired count, which we're doing here. Here we're specifying the network. Here we're specifying some storage information that we want. Typically, you'll get about 50 gigabytes on your units of compute. We just want to set this to 100 just to kind of show that you can do that and to have a little bit extra space because you never know when you might need it. And then lastly, we're going to enable auto scaling. Not going to do too much with this today, but is just a nice feature to have if you're able to, if your budget allows you to scale your cluster out. So quite useful, quite fun. This is something I have to remove from my code. We're not going to be using Helm today, but this is a pretty good example of how you would use the Helm provider. So I'm actually going to go ahead and get rid of that. And then I think that is about it. Lastly, I've got some variables here, just some simple strings. Our project name, which is Minecraft Kates, our region. I live in Los Angeles, so I'm going to use the West US region. The cluster version, which we talked about before, 122, and then this agent size. So if you're following along at home, I'm going to open this repository to the public just shortly, but note that this is a little bit more of an expensive resource. This one's optimized for a lot of compute and memory. So before we leave today, we'll shift this back to a little bit better standard, a little bit more cost-efficient standard, but know that that's something that you can change out based on your needs. All right, so now that we've kind of gone through everything there, I'm actually going to go ahead and jump into my shell and get this kicked off, and then we can kind of talk on some of the other things that we'll be working on today. So I've already run this in the background, but I'm going to run a Terraform init and get things kicked off. When I'm running Terraform init, I'm pulling down the modules that I've declared and the providers, and then getting everything staged and ready to be able to run my Terraform today. So it looks like that went successfully. Let's go ahead and do a Terraform format just to kind of run through the Terraform workflow. Everything looks good here. There's no files that are formatted incorrectly. If that did happen, we would see all of the file names listed underneath, and then we could rest assured knowing that Terraform formatted all of that correctly. Next, we can do a Terraform Validate. What this is going to do is ensure that all of the syntax is correct and kind of like do a check without reaching out to any of our APIs today, just checking the code directly and seeing if everything is as it should be. Everything looks good here. No typos, no bad references or anything like that. Let's go ahead and run a Terraform plan and see if everything looks good for what we're going to be standing up today. So you'll note that as I run a Terraform plan, since I'm using Terraform Cloud, I'm using Terraform Cloud runners, which are going to allow Terraform Cloud to handle the authentication to Azure. I don't have to worry about my local configuration or any of my OS settings, interfering with what Terraform is running today. So again, I get that extra level of certainty that nothing that I do on my local machine is going to shift this too much, aside from actually initiating the plans and applies. So it looks here like we're going to stand up 8 resources, and that looks pretty good to me. Just taking a look through here to make sure everything looks good, which it does. And then let's go ahead and run an apply. So I know that Jackie has seen this before, Terraform YOLO. If you run Terraform apply with an auto approve flag, This is something I absolutely don't recommend that you do for production workloads, but is nice when you don't want to have to type yes or get that extra level of approval on your Terraform applies. All right. And then we'll kick this off, and this will probably take, I'd say, around 4 to 6 minutes. I've always been floored by AKS and how quickly that's able to get stood up. Most services and clouds take a little bit longer for Kubernetes to start when you're not dealing with Kubernetes locally, like Docker for Mac or the Kind project or Minikube. Usually when you're standing this up in a cloud as a managed service, it can take 10, 15, 20 minutes in some cases. It just can take a little bit longer. So working on Azure, I think that was the thing I was most surprised about, was that it only takes about 4 minutes to get that specific cluster resource stood up. So which is quite nice.
We did have a question in chat asking what we're used to get that cost estimation.
Yes, so cost estimation. So as one of my favorite talks in DevRel and pertaining to HashiCorp was from Kelsey Hightower. I think it was a Hashinettes talk. And one of the takeaway items that he referenced in that talk was it's always best to use your company's cloud. And so that's what we're doing here, is using Terraform Cloud to manage our state. So on my account, I've actually got unlocked a couple more features and beta things and alpha things that might not qualify with, or might not correlate to that free tier directly. I think with the free tier, you have the ability to use like a GitOps workflow or run things directly, store your state, work with between 1 to 5 team members. I believe that there's a matrix. I could go and try and find that within Terraform Cloud, but to see what that offers exactly. Sometimes it's hard to keep track of what that matrix looks like. But so right now I'm using mostly free tier items, but cost estimation is something that comes out of the paid tier, as are things like private runners and a couple other pieces of functionality there. So I think when you go into pricing, so we could check and see. So you do get that collaborative aspect to it. You can store your state. And then when it comes to support, obviously, with the free tier, that's going to come from the community. And then some of the extra features and functionality, I think mine is going to be closest with this team and governance level, where I'm going to have team management and governance. And then I can, have some additional concurrent runs. But yeah, if you're curious on that front, this is if you're curious on pricing, that's what you have available to you. It's really nice because as you start to kind of work with Terraform Cloud and get a sense for how it works, it's nice that you have the ability to start free. And I really liken it to GitHub. GitHub has a couple paid offerings and different ways that you can interact with it. Terraform Cloud is the same thing, but knowing that you can kind of get up and off the ground running with that free tier. By no means do you have to move to these other tiers, but if you start to, and if your team scales up and it makes sense for you to go this direction, fantastic. If not, you can stay within that free tier. Typically, I'll operate within this tier for home projects, Raspberry Pi clusters, different types of fun experiments that I'll run on nights and over my weekends, or sometimes during the workday. Much to the chagrin of some coworkers sometimes. Awesome. So this cluster will take a little bit longer to get stood up. If you have any questions, feel free to put those in the chat and we'll take a look at those. In the meantime, I can kind of go through the waypoint component of what we're going to be standing up. And this is the configuration for Waypoint. So I'm actually going to change this to my Visual Studio Code will syntax. This will, since right now it's using an HCL file, it doesn't have a TF, it doesn't have a file name that is recognized. So right now it's just kind of interpreting it as plain text. And so I actually want it to that to show as Terraform, but I forget let me take a look at this really quick. Zoom this out just for a second. And then I know down here in plain text, I always forget this command for this, but I'm just going to go ahead and change this to Terraform so that it gives me that nice HCL highlighting and formatting. I know that there are a couple plugins that would fix this, for me, but typically I like to use the Terraform one. That's typically within the space that I operate. So I like to have that nice nice highlighting. So we've named this project Minecraft, and Waypoint's really nice because it allows us to build, deploy, release. There are a whole bunch of, I think the closest thing that you'd be okay with comparing this to would be a GitOpsy type workflow. Just in terms of understanding the concept, it allows for that kind of workflow to happen, but it's not a GitOps tool, right? Most GitOps tools kind of take the state that you have in your Git repositories and handle that application and the applies and all of the operation behind getting that state to how you want it. That's a very declarative way of deploying your workflows. But Waypoint is a tool that enables all of these different workflows and acts as a really nice framework to set things up exactly how you want. I think the biggest difference between that and one of the things Waypoint, that makes Waypoint not a GitOps tool directly is the ability to build your image. Here, we're actually just going to pull this from the Docker repository, and Waypoint is going to handle putting in an entry point script, which is going to allow Waypoint to actually tail the logs, execute commands if we wanted to, and give us that extra level of functionality and insight into our container that's running. It can also handle things like dynamic config rewrites. So I've got a demo if y'all want to see that in a little bit that would take a Kubernetes config map, and we can start to kind of make changes to the config map and see that reflected within our Waypoint deployed applications, which is pretty cool. You can do that with Vault and with Kubernetes right now. Next, we're going to go and deploy these containers. I'm giving this a scratch path as data just so it can kind of write some things there. We don't need to persist this data necessarily, so it's okay to be a scratch. And then because this is Minecraft, they issue a EULA, and we want to set that to true so that we can actually start the container. If we didn't have this value, we would not be able to. Lastly is this release step. So typically people stop at the deploy step, right? When they're working with an application, build and deploy is typically the workflow that they go through. But Waypoint introduces this release aspect, which enables things like canary deployments or traffic splitting. There are many different workflows that setting things up with this framework can allow for. And so we can have multiple deployments, and Waypoint also gives us a Horizon URL that we can click into, and that will actually pipe through to our cluster. So we don't even have to have that publicly exposed to be able to share it using that Horizon service. Release actually handles the case of, I have deployment 1 and deployment 2. Release actually handles routing the traffic appropriately to your load balancer or your ingress or whatever you have exposing an endpoint to your application, and links that up correctly. You can also use release to, you could potentially use it to send a Slack message when something is complete, or, run another script or do something else. And there's this ability to create plugins for that. So that's quite cool. Awesome. So that's the file that we're going to be deploying today with Waypoint. So we've gotten everything set up, and we should be good on that front. With our AKS cluster, I'll go through and kind of start looking at that shortly. I did see that there was a question though. Should I use Golang for REST API? I'd say absolutely. I'd say go for it. There are many different programming languages and frameworks that you can use. Really, what you have to ask yourself, I think Jackie and I think one of our favorite answers when it comes to tech is, well, that depends, right? Because at the end of the day, it's looking for what you actually want to do and being cognizant of that. If you're, some applications might be very memory intensive, or some might be very CPU intensive. Some might need caching, and there are just a whole bunch of different concerns. Go, I think, is a great choice to start looking into things versus over something, say, JavaScript. JavaScript, I feel like, is a little bit more accessible, and there's a lot of tools to do a lot of things. But when you compare Go to, Go community to the JavaScript community and kind of how to go about doing things, I think goes a little bit more prescriptive and a little bit easier to get into, whereas JavaScript, there's just it's almost like choice paralysis. There's a lot to choose from, which can make things pretty difficult. All right. So we have our Kubernetes cluster. Everything is all set up. And let's take a look at actually getting access to our Kubernetes cluster that we just stood up. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Azure CLI. And let's go ahead and grab this the credentials for this cluster. So I've set up my cluster. The name of the cluster is Minecraft Kate's AKS. Typically, when you stand up an AKS cluster with the Terraform, with the Azure provider, that's going to append a -AKS to the end of the name. So be mindful of that. And then this resource group is going to match that name that we set in our Terraform variables. So go ahead and pull that down. I tested this earlier, so it's going to let me know that this already exists, which is okay. And it's also going to let me know about my context that exists, which is also okay. So I'm going to go ahead and overwrite that. Now I can run kube control. Get nodes, or NO is shorthand. I can also use this because I've aliased kube control to K. So everything looks good there. I've got those 3 machines that I wanted to stand up. If I wanted to take a look at the pods that I have in my cluster, I don't have any within this default namespace. If I wanted to go ahead and get all of them across all namespaces, like even the system containers, I'd be able to take a look at that by just using this -- all namespaces. So even if you don't have any pods running, there's still always going to be some running that are system containers handling things like DNS, kubelet, and these other agents here. So I can see there's an OMS agent that's specific to Azure and kind of getting some information and some statistics out of our cluster today. Awesome. So we wanted to play our Minecraft server using Waypoint today, right? But there's something that we have to do first, and that is install our Waypoint server. Now, we could install that locally with Docker, but if we do that, it's not going to allow us to interact with it in a public space. So keeping track of deployments and all these other things, when our entry point goes to reach back to talk to the Waypoint server, it wouldn't be able to do that if if my IP is not public, which it's not because I'm working off of my machine. So we can install Waypoint to our Kubernetes cluster by specifying the Kubernetes platform. It's going to use that kube config that I just made sure to install, and then also here we want to accept the terms and services agreement here. So we'll go ahead and install that. And pretty shortly, we should have a Waypoint UI that we could take a look at and kind of watch things get up and started with.
Thank you for going through that very smoothly and well. Just an update that I've gone through closed captioning, and it does not look like we'll be able to do it for today, but we'll take that away for next time. And now I'm going to see if my Azure CLI is working.
If you do want to follow along at home, feel free to check out. Let's see here. It's Minecraft Kate's. There it is. Fantastic. It is this repository. I'll go ahead and drop this in the chat. If you want to follow along at home, feel free to check that out. Right now it's private. I'm going to go ahead and jump in here. I'm going to manage the access in live, and on Friday, I'm going to open source this repository. Thank you, GitHub, for making this so easy. Let's go ahead and make this public, and I'll go ahead and grab this. And just like that, that is going to be live. I think that I added a few items just recently. Actually going to go ahead and I did get rid of that Helm item. And let's go ahead and remove Helm resource. Actually, that's provider. And we'll go ahead and push that. So now y'all should have the latest code. And before we go too far in our shell, let's go ahead and take a look at what just happened. So we just set up our Waypoint server. So now we're going to have something that we can actually start to build off of. If I want to go ahead and so I could either go to this web address, but the way that Waypoint UI authentication works right now, we need a token to log in. And since this project is still early days, this is something that we're still working on. So there is a command that you can run called Waypoint UI and then authenticate. So this is going to go ahead and open the browser, write to Waypoint. It's going to give me a token that I can use to log in. And since I'm not using a fully qualified domain name and this is serving over, this doesn't have a valid cert because it is an IP, that's as expected. That's something that we're working on at some point in time in the future, but just know that that warning is okay. It's going to tell us not secure, but that's as expected. So this is our Waypoint server. We can see that we're using Waypoint 023. Everything looks good here. We can go ahead and move on to our next step with Waypoint and do a Waypoint init. Awesome. So really that easy, really fantastic. I'll give it a second here, and then this will refresh in real time and show our project, Minecraft. If we click into that application, we can see nothing has been built or deployed or released just yet, but we can go ahead and fix that. Now, this is, so what the goal is here is to stand up this Minecraft server. And then if you have the Minecraft Java Edition client on your machine, you can actually go in and log into this directly and kind of play with your friends in a Minecraft server, which is going to be really cool. While I was working with this yesterday, I came across a few things that I found is interesting in terms of being able to, spin up this Minecraft server container quickly enough. So I noticed that I was not able to do so. It took the container about like 2 to 3 minutes to actually go ahead and do that. So what we're going to try to do here is really just debug what's going on with the Waypoint server if this runs into any issues in terms of timing. So I'm going to go ahead and run a Waypoint up. Note that you don't have to run Waypoint build, deploy, and release. You can run those atomically, but if you run a Waypoint up, it's actually going to just run through all of those commands. And then we'll be able to actually stream this in this UI as well. So we can see that build happened because it's just a Docker pull. It's adding that Waypoint entry point that we were talking about. And then while this deploys, it's actually going to show that. If we wanted to click and look at the logs, if you were using, if you're either building a Docker file or if you didn't define a Docker file, Waypoint has the ability to use cloud native build packs as well and sense automatically what kind of project you're working with based on, if it's a Go project, you're going to have your modules and your dependencies there. Same thing with Ruby, JavaScript. There are many different projects supported at the current point in time. So even if you don't have a Docker file and you're still kind of, thinking on the best ways to go about doing that, know that you can just kind of get up and off the ground running without that. I'll show an example of that here in a little bit. So I'm curious to see if this container becomes available. We can actually go ahead and look at the logs for that container. I'll bump this up a little bit. Let's take a look at the pods. So we can see that that deployment did get deployed correctly, but the container still is starting up. If we wanted to take a look at what's going on inside of the container, we can see that, so we're preparing everything. It looks like everything's going well. And then we're running into this situation where there isn't enough time for that container to start up. And then typically after a set amount of default time, Kubernetes is just going to restart that container and kind of assess it as not being ready to go. So we can let this try a few times and see if this actually works in terms of getting up and running. But as of last night, I was not able to. And right now, since again, Waypoint's in earlier days, there's a whole bunch of things you can set for each of these different deployments. So this might lead to a PR or an issue getting opened at some point in time too. So if we actually take a look at the Waypoint documentation, the thing that we ideally want to set here is this. Let's see, I want to look at the lifecycle. I want to look at deploy. And then here when we're using Kubernetes, you can see we support quite a few things. Kubernetes, Nomad, ECS, Google Cloud Run. We've got quite a few options here. And inside of Kubernetes, you can set here in the platform in this deploy step, there are no required parameters. So we could leave this empty and we'd be good to go. We'd be fine in terms of what's required from us for Waypoint. But we can add in annotations, image secrets, and a few other items. But right now we can't set in. What we need is that delay seconds. So we don't have that available to us right now, and that's ultimately why it's failing behind the scenes. I do have a break glass deployment, which I can actually show you is going to work appropriately. And that is right here. So this is ultimately what we want. Same kind of thing. We're making sure that this EULA variable is true. And then we're able to, this initial delay seconds is set to 65. So right now we can't specify that within Waypoint, and that's why that's happening. So again, might be something I pick up this week in terms of creating an issue or a PR, because that would be really helpful to be able to set in cases like this where you have an application that takes a little bit longer to stand up, even if you've defined a good amount of compute for it. So if we actually go ahead and apply, I'm going to go ahead and apply that just so we can see what it looks like to have up and running. What's nice about Kubernetes is that when you go about applying these things, I could go in here and deploy each of these YAML files directly, or I can just use the directory itself and then go through and actually get that deployment and service deployed without having to kind of loop through everything. It's nice, kind of like Terraform, you have that .tf. Here with Kubernetes, we're able to apply that within a directory and not have to loop through everything, which is fantastic on our end. So if we get our deployments, we should see we have our Minecraft deployed by Waypoint, and then we have that direct Minecraft that I went about deploying. With this one, though, again, the difference is going to be that this should actually have enough time to start, and then we see this restart keep happening here. So one example of one thing that might be good to be mindful of when working with Waypoint. I'll show you an example here of a little bit more happy path with Waypoint and ways that we can actually get that up and running. We could go and try to change our compute value here. So we did pick a pretty powerful instance here, and that still wasn't enough resources to kind of get that up and running as we wanted to see. So I'm doubtful that we'll be able to get that working the way that we want to, but we will still be able to play Minecraft today by deploying this. So this should be pretty fun. Let's go ahead and get logs for this pod and see where we're at. Awesome. And if you do have Minecraft, that Java edition at home, I'm going to get the IP here shortly. So if you do want to jump into the server and join us, please be our guest. It'd be quite a bit of fun to see any practitioners, operators, or community members inside of our server. And actually watch me stumble around, because I don't think I know all the controls just yet. But okay, so looks like we're up and running with our Minecraft server. Let's go ahead and get let me break out of the logs here. Within Kubernetes, we can set services. And typically when you expose something to the world, you're going to want to use an ingress controller to go about exposing that and kind of have a good standardized way to share your application with the world or internally within the network at your company. Today for this demo, we're just going to use native Kubernetes integrations with the load balancer. And so I'm just going to use, this is my internal cluster IP. This is my external one. And then we've got this port here. So for anyone that wants to join in, if you want to join in the Minecraft fun, you can use this IP port combo. And I'll put that in the chat. Awesome. So if you want to join in the fun, feel free to check that out. I'm going to go ahead and load up Minecraft here.
All right, I think I'm done doing things in the background for a little bit here, and I'm like, yes, I can participate.
This is what Friday deployments are all about, are being able to play your most favorite games.
Great news. I have my Azure login. Bad news. I don't know if I have our actual team set up yet. So we'll just play along like a viewer today.
All right. So let's see if this works. So I'm going to go to multiplayer. Wake up, Minecraft. I don't think I've got. Do I have this full screen? No, I don't want a full screen. Oh my goodness! If I can figure out window management at any point in time, that would be fantastic.
Relatable. Very relatable.
Oh, I feel like that's half of the job. Okay, there we go. I can click here. So I'm not going to see I'm not going to see this locally because it's on the internet. I actually want to connect with this directly. So what I'm going to want to do is go to this direct connection. I can type in the server address. I don't have to specify the port on my machine, but if you have a setup that does have that, you would need to. So I'm going to go ahead and hit join server. And I should be able to get into, so there we go. We're already off to the races. Let me exit out of that and just jump really quick back to those logs to show you that, let me get rid of the follow. We have actually, so that's me, I've joined the game. So I'm actually in here and then I can keep track on my other screen. I'll actually keep the follow on my other screen and see if anyone else jumps into the server. But feel free to jump in if you so choose. But lots of fun. I've not turned on flying just yet, so maybe that's something that we can adjust at some points in time. But awesome. So really cool that, obviously this is a lot of the graphics and those components are running here on my machine, but being able to kind of network and open this up to anyone else out there on the interwebs is quite nice, quite fun. All right. So I'll go ahead and keep this in the background. I could, get spun up on my own time, but I'll keep this up in the background. If anyone else joins, then go around and interact with them. And then, oh, there we go.
Ooh.
I guess we do have somebody entering the fray. Let's go and let's see if we can go and find. Yeah, so I think I started my Minecraft journey on Xbox way back in the day, Xbox 360. How about you, Jackie?
I actually have never installed Minecraft other than Minecraft Dungeons, which was played with some of our colleagues. So I'm installing it for the first time. We'll see how it goes.
I feel like that's the perfect demo for a Friday.
Yeah. Don't mind me. Just live downloading Minecraft for the first time in the background. Gonna see if I can even figure out if I have an account. Do demos work? Who knows? We'll find out in a minute.
Awesome.
Boundary
Cool.
Connect Minecraft. This sounds fun.
It's fun. I feel like it'd be just a great place to have team meetings, frankly. Awesome. I'm gonna hold on that just for a second, and if we get anyone else that wants to join us in our Minecraft session, fantastic. If you need the IP, feel free to drop us something in the chat, and we'll take care of that. One of the other things I did want to show you really quick is the ability for waypoints to handle dynamic configuration. So I know not as much fun as Minecraft, but pretty close when it comes into your workflows. So I'm actually going to open up another repository that I have. I'll load it here on this other screen. And then, okay, so it's Vault AKS, I believe. And then I'll open up this repository, and then I'll share that out with y'all. So this is another demo, another thing that I worked on this week and kind of shared out with a few teams, gave some presentations on, was standing up Vault on AKS. That was quite a bit of fun. And actually, no, this is not the demo I want. I think it was AKS, the HashiCorp way. That's what I want. Oh, I hear some Oh, we have a another another HashiCorp employee that joined the fray, Kareem Satirli. So nice to see you, Kareem, with your with your t-shirt.
Oh shoot, I should do that if I ever manage to
Yeah,
join.
I feel like I feel like a terrible employee because I haven't customized my avatar just yet. Oh
Yeah, I
no.
did my Animal Crossing one. Well, I didn't even do that. Another colleague made all of the designs for the Animal Crossing ones, and that was great. But
I really liked that when applying for the job. There was the asset pack, and then there's this the phone case that you could get in Animal Crossing, and I made that HashiCorp uh, before while applying for this job. So it was a lot of fun. Awesome. Well, I will. I'll leave. I'll leave.
oh, I might be able to join.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. If I can. Apologies for the flashing the flashing bar, everybody. I
Wait,
still.
what do I even click? Is it multiplayer?
Yes. Yeah. Multiplayer. And then if
Add
you jump in with the
server.
direct connection.
Let's see.
Let's go over here. I feel like the seed for this the seed for this island could have been a little bit easier to get around, but alas. All right. While you jump in, I'll go ahead and just jump over to the other demo that I have for everybody today.
Oh, we made it. We made it. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we made it.
Awesome.
I don't even know what I look like.
This is the other quick demo that I have for you today. AKS, the HashiCorp way. This was another demo kind of showing console, vault, and waypoints all together. Let me go ahead and switch into that repository really quick. And then we can jump back and finish out our session with some fun Minecraft. All right. Okay. So let me go ahead and open this repository. So really operating off the same components here. We have, but we've already stood up our Waypoint server. And if we wanted to go ahead and deploy this demo application that I have, not really doing anything too wild or crazy other than this dynamic configuration name here, secret name. It's going to be stored as a environment variable. Now, if I go ahead and do a waypoint init, or actually, if I jump into the right directory, I can do waypoint init. We can jump back to our waypoint UI and see that we'll actually have another project. Example Node.js, no builds, no deployments, nothing like that just yet. If I do a waypoint up here, this is going to take the cloud native build packs because we haven't specified a Docker container and go about actually creating that image for us. I can hear in the background my character has made his way into the ocean and is not having a good time.
Yeah, just drowned. Feels bad.
Hopefully my my waypoint deployment goes a little bit better. Awesome. So this will take a second, but if we wanted to, we can actually take a look at where the build is at by clicking in here, and then these logs are streamed, which is kind of a cool bit of functionality that Waypoint gives us. Waypoint kind of filling that gap where you need to rely on someone to stand up infrastructure, and it's just this long process of being on a dev team and ops team. Waypoint really kind of helps bridge all of those groups together and making this easier to get a quick feedback loop. All right, and we should be just about done here with our build. Awesome. This application that I'm deploying right now is a Node.js application, and just really simple page. It's just going to give us a quick route to be able to take a look at, and then we're going to see it's going to be just a logo, and then it will say hello, no name here, and that's going to be the secret name that we're actually going to go about defining and showing off. All right, so that is still building. Oh, internet. All right. So this image has progress. Built, and we're pushing, and it should be there. Yeah, my internet just got really slow for some reason, but that's all right. That's life. Let's go ahead and open up another waypoint here. Awesome. Okay. It's fine. And there it is. Okay. So our application is deploying now. It will generate a cluster IP, so we won't actually get to see that directly because cluster IP is private to the cluster. It doesn't have that external network access. So here we can actually click on this deployment, and once it's up and running, actually, just keep playing the refresh game here. There it is. We can see this says hello blank. This Node app was deployed with Waypoint. So pretty cool. Now, if we take a look at the logs, we'll see that this secret name is not found, which we actually want to set and actually get that in there. If I open up my code, I have this config map where I've set a username and want that to be Taylor. So I'm going to go through here, hit K, apply, config map. And now we can see that that's been applied appropriately. So we have our Waypoint demo config map with my username. And then what's nice is that Waypoint with that entry point script is able to keep track of that value and watch it. And so we can see that this is terminating that process because we changed that username. It didn't exist. That's why we saw nothing within this page. Now that we've applied something, it's going to handle restarting that process. And then we can see it's listening again. So if I were to page refresh, we can see that now my name's been deployed. So Waypoint really gives you, a lot of abilities when it comes to deploying your applications or your Minecraft server. And so whether you're working with colleagues or, your other friends who like gaming, then you have quite a few options here. So I'm going to jump back to I'm going to respawn and see if anyone else has made it out here to our island. It looks like sounds pretty barren to me, but
okay, I can come back. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm distracted. So maybe I should close it and pay attention again.
I'm gonna see if I can make my way out to this lava over here, which thank y'all for following along too, by the way. If you do have any questions, or whether they be about Minecraft, Waypoint, Terraform, any other HashiCorp product, please feel free to ask us in the chat. Otherwise, I think we're going to just keep coasting on our islands until time. If there are any questions that you have, otherwise, yeah, I'm curious to see how many people we can get in here into our server.
Okay, well, I made it in
very
again.
Much. Thank you very yes, and thank you for joining Kareem all the way from Amsterdam. Much appreciated.
Am I appear to be like on top of a tower? What?
Yeah, I don't know what the seed was for this island, but man, it's quite difficult.
It's very dark too.
It's like, this is what I feel like your first job in DevOps had to have been like, right?
Oh yeah, you're like, it's dark. I'm on like pedestal somewhere. There's some problems.
I have no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah,
Someone's attacking me on my PR.
PRs, what are those? That was not what I had at the start.
Oh, looks like Kareem came back into the fray as well.
Yeah, I don't know how to find you in here. I am actually on top of like a giant tower. I don't know what's going on. It's dark. Like
Oh, we
I don't
gotta.
see lava from here. I feel like
Oh
if I
no.
try to move off this tower, I'm just gonna die. Like, I mean, I guess like we YOLO it. Let's just jump and see what happens. Oh, oh, I'm in the
Absolutely, yeah. I
water.
feel like you're rewarded from that exploration and that adventure, sense
I'm
of
stuck in the
adventure.
water.
I'm just trying to get away from Kareem because I know that he drowned me last time. So
That's some teamwork right there. Very supportive.
let's see. Okay, I think I'm safe over here. I found a
Wait, what
little
is
monster.
this monster stuff going on? I don't like this. I don't even know what buttons to hit.
What's
Like,
happening? Oh, I know. The first time my like key mapping, so to move forward, you have to hit the W key, but I was hitting, I think, the E key, which opens up the this menu. So I was not having a good time for the first couple of minutes there.
oh my god. Is that Kareem? Kareem, how did you find me? We're just like beating up a llama. I'm pretty sure we're terrible people. Like,
All right. Ah, fantastic. Yeah, I'm curious to see, is there, so
can I
okay.
like ride the sheep? No. Okay, anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, I think my frame rate's not the best. Could be a little bit better, just judging by what it looks like on Twitch. But oh, this is fantastic. But yeah, there is literally no limit to things that you can do when it comes to Waypoint and Kubernetes. This is what distributed computing is really all about: is just being able to have tons of fun with your friends across the clouds. Like Jackie and Kareem and I were all in very different parts of the world, so great to be able to come together and and collaborate within Minecraft. But
No, no, there's zombies. Dislike.
I was able to push one into the water.
Kareem, this is your
So
time. Where are you? Come back. That zombie's on fire. What is happening? Anyway, sorry, you were saying nice things. I was just like, what is happening? Oh my god, he was killed by a zombie. No, I do not like
like
this.
it's very troubling to watch.
I don't know what I'm doing. Please leave me alone. I don't even know how to play games on Mac. Like, oh, I got an achievement. Chill. Oh no, I'm dying. I'm dying. I think I'm dying. I made it. Okay, we're just gonna move somewhere that's less stressful than being near this cave. I can't jump high enough. Okay, anyway. Big
Oh,
distraction.
so much fun. Well, it's very much Friday. We're going to be closing out our stream here, but if you want to join in the fun, we'll keep the server open for a little bit longer, and if anyone wants to join in that fun. But thank you all so much for joining us today on another episode of HashiCorp Live.